Here.
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 If everybody would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete a request card prior to the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. We will expect speakers and the crowd tonight to conduct themselves with respect and civility towards others and the Board of Education members. We will expect the attendees tonight to conduct themselves in a professional and courteous manner. We will not allow disruptions, clapping, cheering, which will hinder the orderly process and the carrying on of business as this board meeting tonight. We thank you all for your courtesy in allowing for this board meeting to operate in an orderly fashion. Melissa, do we have cards? When we call your name, come up and you can use either microphone on either side. Joe Lacasio, teachers.
I don't know who to face. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Joe Lacasio. I'm a resident of Dekalb. My wife and I taught at Dekalb High School for many years. And I was also assistant superintendent of schools in the district. We want to begin by thanking each and every one of you on the board sincerely for your service. Board members serve without pay, with incredibly long hours, and usually with a good deal of stress. We've never questioned your commitment or your dedication. But tonight, I would like to call into question your judgment on a crucial matter. When we read the email regarding negotiations with the DCTA sent by the board last week, we were stunned. There were no individual signatures on the communication, so we don't know if the email was endorsed by every board member. We would hope. Like many others in this community, we found this email to be unwarranted and provocative in its castigation of our teachers. The sentiments expressed should never have been uttered, let alone at such a fragile time in negotiations. I refuse to believe that it represents the real feelings of board members. I firmly hope that it was merely the product of a misguided lawyer's advice who thinks that muscle is the best strategy when trying to settle a conflict. It is problems that our board and our teachers will have to work with each other long after that lawyer has forgotten which tollway exit takes him to Dekalb. I don't have time to address every misconception in the email. I would have to keep this to 3 minutes. But I will address a few. No serious person has ever believed that people go into teaching to become wealthy. They can't. And to suggest that the email does that our teachers are money hungry is patently absurd. All they want is fair, reasonable compensation commensurate with their teaching and professionalism. No serious person can argue that our teachers don't spend enough time at their jobs. Go into the high school math office anytime on any day before or after school to see teachers working with students outside the class. Look at English teachers who spend dozens of hours each week outside the class grading papers and essay tests. Look at elementary teachers whose own children think they don't have labs because each night they're buried under pods listening to papers and projects. You don't want to put a time clock on our teachers because an 8-hour day would be far, far preferable to the hours they now put in. Let me just say that I really don't think you believe the email you sent out. Tell your lawyer to forget strategies and manipulations and distortions. Roll up your sleeves and sit down, please, to talk with these teachers who want to talk with you. They are not your adversaries. They spend as much time with children as their parents do. want to contact the families you do, please give them the chance. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Please no clapping between comments. Thank you. Next, we have Jen Moore, Taxes and Curriculum.
My name is Jen Moore. I'm a parent at Little John. I'm not a teacher, but I did work with some of the teachers at Little John last year. And there was one is I don't like the email that is structured with necessary information. So if I provide also unnecessary information, I apologize. But I just want to point out, in case nobody does tonight, that the threat to paying taxes, or that there's going to be a tax hike because you're just paying the teachers what I make my students deserve. That's part of the threats that were mentioned earlier that I don't agree with, but I'd like to point out that if you're not going to pay the teachers what they deserve and what they're asking for, and find a way to negotiate, and then these teachers leave our community, which is already, we're having trouble with retainment at NMU. We're having families leave left and right the community because of the schools. They're not measuring up to other communities. If you have whole families moving out and not moving back in, again, like I said, it's taking obvious, if you don't have families moving in here and taking up space, then there's no amount of tax base that can help you or help any of us, because everyone's going to leave and not come in, and it's going to be a lose-lose situation. To me, that was the most obvious thing stuck out in the email, and I can't believe that grown-ups would take that route to make a point. I kind of was I can't help but speak, but I just want to point out that the threats used were just, they didn't make sense to me. I can imagine they didn't make sense to anybody else. So, thank you.
Thank you. Please. Next, we have Tom Bursky, District Finance.
Hello, I'm Tom Bursky. I've been a resident in Dekalb community for 48 years, so I guess I'm a relative newcomer. I believe everyone in this room wants what's best for our children. Everyone. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. But I was alarmed, saddened, and angry as I read the message from the Dekalb Board of Education. You painted a picture that our teachers don't care about our students or our community. You could not be further from the truth. Our teaching professionals are Dekalb District's closest link to our families. They are the integral part of our community as a whole. They live here, they shop here, send their children to our schools. They are our friends and they're our neighbors. They are a significant part of the school community. Parents can trust them with their children. That's tremendous trust. Teachers, along with parents, work together to build a school culture that is nurturing, safe, challenging, and respectful of each person in the school community. I was both a teacher and a principal for over 30 years in our schools. I have seen firsthand the commitment our teachers make to our students. They play a huge role in helping develop our community leaders of the future. They are true professionals and not in name only. College education is not cheap. We're fortunate in this community that 68% of our teachers have master's degrees. Another commitment of both time and money to be a stronger professional. We want our teachers in our community to be well prepared. I've seen firsthand at Cortland, Huntley, Rosette, Tyler, Lincoln, Brooks, Littlejohn, Wright, and the high school, the commitment of the staff makes on behalf of students before, during, and after school hours for our children. I'm sure this is occurring at all our schools, but those were the schools I was either a teacher, principal, or a parent. Yet our board portrayed our staff as doing the least possible bell to bell. For our children, our school day is longer than some of the district schools in our county. Our children are getting older. The district would like to increase their control over our teachers' time beyond the school day. I have always had the belief that when you treat your staff with professional respect, you get far greater effort, well beyond what you might get by legislating more time. We have financial restraints we must deal with. But tearing down the most valuable asset, the staff, that directly works with our children and parents, is not the way to do it. I'm not an overly political person, but your letter had a tenor similar to Governors Walker and Warner, union and teacher bashing. I am hoping this wasn't your intent. If this letter was the board's creation, shame on you. If this letter was the efforts of our district attorney or administration, you should consider replacing it. It is important that our Board of Education treat our teaching professionals
Mr. Bursky,
respect that are due.
your 3 minutes is up.
I have something good to say about you too.
Finish up, please.
We do have a revenue problem. I want to congratulate the board for supporting the 1% sales increase for the county. Most of our districts in our county have supported it. Sycamore has not, and our county board has. You're trying to get more revenue. That's the problem that we have. Sycamore doesn't want to do it more than the county because they'll lose money from United Airlines. Money they shouldn't have, because that money should be going to Cook County, to the Regional Transportation Authority. But you did the job. We have to get those groups to recognize that we can't start taking from each other. We have to support our community.
Thank you very much. Next we have Charles Miller, and this is against the union.
I'm here to represent the one person that everybody needs is city taxpayer. Okay. We are your customers. I pay over $3,500 a year tax directly to the school district. I don't have a choice of where I can spend my money. My children have to pay an additional $500 each to go to a public school to offset the costs, supposedly, that are incurred for other additional requirements. Okay, so I pay $4,500 a year taxes to the school district. Okay. You guys are strapped. You want to raise property taxes. If you raise property taxes, we have empty homes around here legally. You will lose your taxes, thereby causing more reductions in staff and harder negotiations next time. You guys keep raising taxes, trying to fill your vacancies, and to reach meet ends. It's not going to happen. The union keeps wanting more and more of our money, okay, for the same amount of work. I've done on both sides of the coin. I've been a union member and I've worked in the private sector. Okay, I understand the union's goals. Right? There comes a point where you have to understand you can only get so much blood out of community tax. The school board's going to grow, right? Not through mismanagement or anything. It's just the way costs are. I understand you want to get paid. That's great. You work 10 months out of the year, okay? You do. You know,
Okay, please give everybody equal opportunity to speak.
But you get paid for 12 months.
So you only make $65,000 over 9 months. You won't get paid during summer? Oh, so you get paid 12 months.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is not interactive.
But anyway, if you take their salaries and you rate a teacher 12 months a year, and you pay them what they would get paid for the 10 months of service they get, a $65,000 a year turns into an $82,000 a year job. Okay? Plus another thing that you don't quite understand is nobody in the private sector gets their employer to pay their full college education. Some sectors get reimbursed for tuition reimbursement to a certain amount, but I can't go back to school and get my master's, my doctorate on the school board's dime. When I'm not employed. So, you guys got it good here, which is the taxpayers and everybody
are squeezed to death. We don't need any more higher tax. We're just gonna have more and more empty homes and less people to tax. And at some point, the schools are gonna be empty, and then you are gonna be empty. So we have to come to a mutual agreement here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Paul Ung, DHS teachers.
Hello, my name is Paul Lund. I'm a rising senior here at Dekalb High School. And my freshman year, I was admitted to the Illinois Math and Science Academy. And I was intent on attending. I had said goodbye to most of my friends. I had told people that I was going to be gathering supplies for my new group. But over the course of my first year here at Dekalb High School, I got to work with some of the most excellent people I have ever met in my life. And at the end of that year, I decided to stay at Dekalb High School. And never once have I regretted that decision. No matter what I needed throughout my time here at the high school, there have been people to support. Teachers who do not do just their job, but who go above and beyond to help make me the person that I want to be. Whenever I needed help after a class, it was there, and there for longer than that. Whenever I needed help just getting through and sorting through my life, there was an adult there for me to talk to. The teachers at the high school who do activities like ed and forensics devote hours and hours of their time, but so does every other teacher. Teachers who write papers when they're at home instead of at school. The teachers here in our district are not the cartoon monsters sucking off proverbial taxpayer teeth. They're heroes, and I'm proud to say that I'm Dekalb. Thank you.
Next we have Terry Schultz, teachers, contracts, and redistricting.
Hi, my name is Carrie Schultz. I am a parent of two students in the district. I wanted to come here tonight because I have been just very upset with the whole redistricting process, as it has in fact affected my son more than you will ever, in your imagination, know. He is sick to his stomach about switching schools, and I don't think that was something that was actually considered when you're putting kids on a piece of paper and trying to lay them out where they should be. As far as the main reason I'm here tonight is because of the contract, or excuse me, the email that I received, as many others. And I have to say that it really painted this picture of something that was very awful to me. And the fact that you think that I should send my children to spend 8 hours, or whatever it is, however many hours a day, to spend with these monsters that you have created in that email makes me very upset. Because the image that you painted for me as a parent reading that email was that all they want is money and they don't want to spend time with my children. And that is beyond what I have witnessed for the 5 years that my children have been in Commerce Elementary. Very, very large elementary school. I had a huge trepidation about my children going there. But I knew the staff there. I knew those people as they transitioned with my daughter from Wright. And they made sure that that ginormous elementary school was a tight-knit, loving, caring place. They made sure that everyone had a name and that they were recognized and appreciated. I have been on the PTO there since the day they opened, and I have watched many of these people give hours of their time, talent, and resources to my children and the other 500 and some that have been in that school. So the image that you portrayed in that was very upsetting because I love and adore all of these people because many of these people are my neighbors, friends, and the people that I trust my children with on a daily basis. And appreciate for you to have some tact and respect for them and what they have done for all kids in the district for the past many years that they've been teaching. Because they deserve better than what I read in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Jim Mason, on the strike.
I'm Jim Mason. Been in this town for 52 years. 1964. Teachers are heroes. Teachers are heroes. I've been around teachers ever since I've been in school. And I give them credit for who I am and what I am today. But you're caught in a vice. You're caught in a vice of terrible management of the last 10 years. I personally wrote editorials back in the 70s and 80s why you shouldn't spend more money for school buildings. We had high school, we had schools, we had them paid for. The debt service from 1971 in the new school until the early 2000s was probably $1.7 million a year. What has happened here because of the new school, and this is deficit spending on steroids. Now we're paying $4,500,000 interest on. That's all I have. Frank knows what I'm talking about. He's a banker. I don't mention anybody's last name on the radio show because everybody was afraid of shadow. We had $1.7 million for 4 years. You had an apartment house, you paid 6 weeks taxes to the school board and to the taxes. Now people are paying 20 weeks taxes. You've got 1.8 billion, and Andrea over here, well, she is a superstar. I know she's behind it, so. She understands what's happening here. The problem is we're bankrupt. We're going to have the highest taxes in the world. And all you teachers that work so hard, I work 24/7. I'm not asking you to do what I do. I'm not asking for overtime. Forgive me. We're bankrupt. I'm contemplating creating a class action suit against the bondholders to default the bonds. We had 2,000 houses supposed to be built here, and they never were ready. No bondholder in his right mind or banker would lend you $110 million unless you had concrete in the ground and you had revenue coming in. We are in real trouble here.
Mr. Mason?
I'll be off in a second. I appreciate this.
No, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay. The last thing I'll say is the 1% sales tax is a good idea if it all goes to retire the debt. Then we can save our EDA and our tax base and community. Please call my show and ask any questions. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jacob Marks, union negotiations.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Jacob Marks, and I'm a graduate of the VHS class of 22. I'm a college senior studying politics and government at Monmouth College and just returned from spending a semester in Washington, D.C. prior to the legislative intern for a congressman on Capitol Hill. I attribute much of my success to the teachers I learned from in the Dekalb school system, and as well as the mentoring that I received from former VHS principal Dr. Tamara Grover. As a graduate of the Dekalb school system, a resident of Dekalb, and as a taxpayer, I'm surprised and honestly disgusted by what appears to be underhanded actions taken by you, this school board, and nowhere during the past few weeks. Before I continue my statement, I got a real quick question for you all. Now, I'm not going to remember what the Constitution says. It's not like I study politics or government or things which was what was happening a few weeks ago when the police were called on peacefully assembled teachers. I have to ask, why were police called on peacefully assembled teachers? I know that I'm not the only one here who is angry about the tactics that you, as a school board, last week by releasing that letter to the students and parents. It just doesn't rewrite it all. It showed a very one-sided view of negotiations. But as the saying goes, there's always two sides to every story. You start the letter with, it is time for students, parents, and taxpayers to hear the facts. You present many statements, yet don't show any evidence. Now, my public school education has taught me to always cite my sources, and you fail to do so in that letter. Show us the data instead of presenting this fact. The letter released by your tax teachers who give their all every day for their students. The school day does not end when the bell rings for them. They take the work home with them, whether it's evaluating projects, preparing for the next school day, or to assess student work. These are better than how you treated them in that letter. Apparently, we wish to extend the school day by 2 hours without additional compensations to the teachers. How is that fair? Finally, your use of smear tactics and constitutionally questionable moves makes me ask you this, and I quote, at long last, have you no sense of decency? Doing what DHS taught me and citing my sources for that quotation is from Army Captain Joseph Welch to Joseph McCarthy during the rights scare. Using such tactics are not the right way to move forward with negotiations between you and the teachers union. When you go into negotiations, please keep in mind the positive impact that this. Dekalb School District teachers have had on thousands of students. Whether it was my fourth grade teacher at Wright, my middle school history teacher, or my sophomore Irish humanities teacher, all of them had a great impact on my life. I hope you realize how much damage you have done by acting in such a disrespectful and unreasonable manner. My name is Jacob Marks. I'm proud to have graduated from the Dekalb School District. I'm absolutely ashamed by the way that my school board has
Mr. Marks, could you please wrap up?
advocated for the last few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Christensen, relationships with staff and community.
Hi everyone. I'm not here for any particular side tonight, and there are many of you up there that I know really well, and I would have given you a hug, but I couldn't get to you. So I empathize. I understand the stress and the tension and the exhaustion that these times bring, because I have been there, and I do see the multiple perspectives. And my heart breaks for the situation that you're in right now. A couple of the things I wanted to stress is that I see the tactics. I've negotiated. I know what the tactics look like, and they're used in negotiations. But what gets lost in all of it are the relationships and the long-term plan of what a healthy district looks and acts like. So often in negotiations, we would focus very directly on a specific item, a detail, maybe belabor it to death for a day. And in the grand scheme of running a district and taking care of children and forging positive relationships, that one thing really didn't mean much. I hope everyone remembers that as they move forward. There's a really good opportunity right now for people to step forward and be the one that can build a bridge, that can mend, and can come out really shiny as a great leader. I hope that those people know who they are and are able to step forward and do that. Remember, it's collective bargaining. That means it's collective. Please work collectively. I know the us versus them mentality. Been there, done that, lived it. It's not healthy. You cannot maintain an organization with an us versus them mentality. You need to look at you all as a group. Please find the neutral ground. I'm assuming you've agreed on something so far. So look back at what you could agree on, why you agreed on it, how was that successful, and try to take that forward to make your next agreement. Relationships and trust can be destroyed in times like this. It looks like camaraderie on one side, it looks like intimidation tactics. We know all that, but if you want a long-term healthy organization, then you need to work together. Thank you. So please, don't dig in your heels. Don't be so stubborn that you are afraid to give in. Sometimes giving in is just that you are seeing the opportunity to move ahead. Thank you, everybody.
Next, we have Chris Marva, and she's speaking about the teachers.
My name is Chris Marva, and I've been a lifelong resident of Dekalb. I have a vested interest in our community and our schools. My two sons have attended Dekalb schools, and my youngest is still at Dekalb High School. I want to express how disheartened I am by the letter sent out by the Board of Education to our families regarding our teachers. My experience with our Dekalb teachers is different than the negativity that was portrayed in that letter. Our teachers' efforts, their talents, and their time go far beyond their call of duty each and every day in order to help our children reach their potential. I think everyone in this room can think back during their education and thank a teacher for making a difference in their life. What other profession can say that? We expect so much of our teachers, and yet many criticize them when they ask for something in return. Our teachers spend more time with our children throughout the day than many parents do, and yet we take this for granted. So I'm asking you, the Board of Education, to model the behavior we ask our children and students to portray every day, not finger point or name call. Find a way to fairly work with our teachers to reach an agreement. Even our youngest students realize they can disagree, but they find a way to work together to compromise and resolve their issues in a respectful way. I ask you, the Board of Education, to do the same so we can retain the high quality of teachers our children deserve. I ask you, the Board of Education, to be the hero and resolve this issue fairly so our children can start school on time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Molly Sternoga, and she's speaking regarding the teachers.
Hi everyone, a lot of you in this room know me. I think this makes about half the people that mean something to me in my life. My name is Molly Sternoga, and I'm going to be a senior at Dekalb High School this year. This will also be my 15th year in the district, if you count the 2 years that I spent at preschool at middle school. So I've been around for a long time, and I know a lot of the people here. In elementary school, my mom taught at the same school that I went to. So that meant that I had to get up early and be there before every single other kid was there, and be there way past any other kid was also there. So I basically coaxed my dad to bring me to school. The same thing happened when I went to middle school and high school. My mom didn't follow me, but the same thing with teachers happened. I mean, I see them staying there until all hours of the night. Usually, I'm here so late, I don't even know what time I'm in school anymore, but the teachers don't leave until I leave, which is kind of scary. And it just shows how dedicated they are to this job. If I need help on a problem that I didn't understand the lesson, or even if I need to sit down and do my homework, just in case I have questions, they're there to help me. And it's just phenomenal the support I've gotten throughout my years. I'm also really involved in high school, so I'm in student council, forensics, I'm the editor-in-chief of our writer, and a lot of other things, so I don't have time to talk about them. And in each and every one of these activities, these advisors and coaches, they take on a second job. I don't think people understand how much that extracurricular requires. And these teachers are so dedicated to it, and they just want us to have the best high school experience that we have, and they're there for us 24/7. I emailed my counselor and my Solomon, my lovely forensics coach that taught me these skills. I emailed them this summer, and they both replied to me within a day, if not an hour, which is kind of scary for their families, but really good for us. So they're just so dedicated to their work, and I'm honored to be in their schools. I just want to say that throughout these hard times, there's been a lot of stuff going on, and take so much support from the community, and seeing here, hi, Super More, to see you. Thanks for coming. It's just been so cool to scroll through my Facebook feed and just see everyone outpouring their support for the teachers, because they just know that these teachers make our lives better, and it's just an awesome thing to see. And I want them to continue to love their jobs so that we can continue to love learning like we do. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Marge Askins.
Hi, my name is Marge. I'm a resident of Dekalb County. I'm also a graduate of Dekalb High School Class of 04. And I'm proud to be here tonight to stand with the DCTA. I know that you, the school board, know firsthand the dedication that the teachers of our district demonstrate. After I graduated in 04, I went off to school and I came back to my hometown to get a little bit more education and start a career of service to my community. I can draw a direct line from the career that I started working here in District 428 back to the education that I got working with teachers starting in 4th grade when my family moved to Dekalb. They are incredibly dedicated. We've already had a lot of discussion about that. But more to the point, in my day job, I see on a day-to-day basis how we ask teachers routinely to be more than teachers. We ask them to be social workers and counselors. We ask them, they're legally required to be mandated reporters to intervene in dangerous situations on their students' behalf. They do a lot of good for our community. And what they're asking for in this negotiation is fair compensation for the extremely difficult work that they put in. Like I said before, I know you as a board know that the DCTA and the professionals that they represent are extremely valuable to our community. I want to say on top of that, however, that I was extremely disappointed by the rhetoric I saw in the letter that was sent out. It's been a topic of discussion significantly tonight. The letter used metaphor and language that painted the teachers not as the superheroes we know them to be, but as money grubbing and a drain on our community when we know that that's the opposite of what they are. I want to thank you for the hard work that I know you do as a board. Governing, being a taxing body, is not easy work, and so I want to thank you for doing that work. But at the same time, I want to urge you to please be cautious and be mindful in the approach that you take to working with the DCTA and the professionals that they represent. Thank you.
Thank you. Elsa Glover, and she would like to speak about the teacher's contract.
Hi, my name is Elsa Glover, and I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. It's been really cool. I am a graduate of the school district, and it is cool to see my classmates here and my teachers here. I also am a resident of Dekalb, and it's neat to see my neighbors here and my children's teachers as well. Okay, proud parent of 2 children currently attending the texting homeowner in Dekalb. There we go. I'm a national board certified teacher and an instructional coach at Kingland School District. I come today to express my deep concern about the school board's memo sent to me and so many others like it. The memo vilified teachers and it's full of half-truths. I am disappointed. A well-known teacher at Dekalb High School has coined a phrase, there is one bar. To me, that phrase epitomizes the best of our community. It shows that we are all one, and in this capacity, we are all working for the betterment of our children. As one guard, I expect my school district to work in ways that will best support and educate Dekalb's children. I expect that the school board will bargain in good faith and will keep our children as the central force and reasons for their actions. As one guard, I expect our teachers to keep our children at the center of their profession as well. I am proud of our teachers. They have larger classes than other schools. They have taken pay increases to support our school district's financial plan. They work beyond their contractual hours. They create important programs to support our children, and they continue to learn and grow themselves. But most important, they have dedicated their lives to our kids. These teachers understand the idea behind one card. I urge our school board and our teachers to bargain in good faith, to create a contract that will support our teaching staff fairly. Most importantly, I urge you all to create a better and stronger bar, one that you can continue to be proud of.
Thank you. Crispin Graham, negative public statement.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Byrne. I'm a graduate of Dekalb High School. I come here to talk about some unpleasant times in my life. Going through the Dekalb school system as a victim of bullying. And so it harms me to see the school board acting in a way to these teachers who were the ones safe haven that I had when I was in school. The school board has set forth a brilliant policy of bullying, which says purposeful written behavior, including but not limited to any threatening, insulting, or dehumanizing gesture that has the potential to create an intimidating, hostile, or offensive educational environment. The district seems to have made engaging in an act of bullying a serious offense for which the school will suspend or even expel students. However, the school board indicates by its letter to the public that bullying is an acceptable behavior for the school board itself. And so I have a series of questions. When did the school board adopt a policy that would engage in contract negotiations, however intense, that the board should bully and dehumanize teachers? When did the school board adopt a policy that they don't get information, they should belittle and harass teachers? In what board meeting was the policy adopted that says the school board should be held to a lower standard than the students it is supposed to support? When did the school board adopt this policy that demonstrates to students and the community that it's an acceptable response to a process you don't like, you should walk away crying like a small child? The very children these teachers are trying to teach to be better people. How can the board sit here and expect the students and families of this district to respect the teachers and schools when you so truly don't? I'm a proud of District 428 and the education I received from the teachers, not the school board. Enabled me to study abroad during high school and college, be a student athlete, compete for my schools both athletically and academically. I was given an excellent education and a head start to college where I was able to graduate with my bachelor's in 3 years. I'm able to interact with the community as a tutor, as a babysitter. The teachers that taught, nurtured, and pushed me did so because they believed in me as a person. They took the time before and after the bell to know me and what I needed to be successful, and then they took the extra effort to guide me on the path to success. They didn't stop talking when the bell rang at the end of school. They didn't say no to a request for extra guidance. They did answer emails late into the night. They did spend time outside the bell making sure that we were ready for AP tests, ready for the world beyond high school, and not because they were contractually obligated to do so, but because they cared about the students as people. So I've had a lot of questions, but I leave you with this. Why doesn't the school board have the same desire for students and school success as the teachers?
Thank you. Marika Wassman, and she's talking about school.
Hi, my name is Marika Wassman, and I have 2 children in the district. I too was very, very upset with the letter that came out, and I agree completely with Christian about the bullying. That's all it was, just pure bullying from a parent's point of view. I'm going to read a little excerpt here, cite my source. In 2013, there was a Washington Post article about what the average teacher makes, about $59,000 per year, 53 hours a week. I can guarantee you that all these teachers out here that I know, that I'm friends with, that I'm neighbors with, put in way more than that. I see them at Target, scrounging through the bargain bins, looking for items for their classrooms. I see them on garage sales, picking up loads of items for their classrooms to better these kids. I'm gonna put my daughter into a school that she's been redistricted to, which is okay, because whatever. Anyway, sorry, but I'm gonna place her in somebody's hands for 6.75 hours a day, and you guys expect me to do that willingly and not be emotional and not be scared for her and my other daughter that are going into these programs and moving them all out to be bullies. That's terrible. Our teachers are nothing but thoughtful, loving, caring human beings that their parents, coaches, mentors, they give all their time to talk to tons of kids. And you guys treated them like crap. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Call a spade a spade. Please fix this problem. Please do not treat the DCTA, everybody that is involved with it, from the head teacher, the top principal, whatever, to the lowest janitor. That's just terrible. You owe them and everybody else an apology.
Thank you to everybody who participated tonight in the public comment section of the meeting.
I didn't know that the meeting was moved. I wrote the voice street, and I did want to say something. Still have time for one more.
Go ahead.
My name is Joanna Platt. I have two sons. One graduated from Dekalb High School in 2015. The other one, it will be a senior this year. I would like to emphasize that in general, I am very pro-union. In fact, I've been involved in the unionization of faculty at NIU where I work. However, in this case, when it comes to negotiations for the contract, I wish to support the board. Teachers in Dekalb make above the state average for teachers' salaries. They have the shortest school year possible and one of the shortest school days. My experience has been with my children, they are frequently not available before or after school to ask questions. In the high school, only during class. Perhaps because their workday starts and ends when the school day starts and ends. If you follow the so-called Illinois report card, which is available online for every school, you will see that over the last 15 years, academic results for Dekalb schools have been falling. 12 years ago, we were above the Illinois average. Now we are below. That makes one stop and think about the level of teaching. We are not a wealthy district. The average family of 4 in Dekalb makes considerably less than a teacher. Therefore, I think that perhaps in these negotiations, teachers should agree to take at most a cost of living salary adjustment for the next contract, nothing more. At the same time, I would also ask the board to consider cutting the number of administrative positions. The Dekalb schools have become top-heavy. I don't think that the Dekalb High School needs 3 assistant principals, 3 assistant athletic directors, and 5 deans. Instead, it would be better to hire more graduate guidance counselors and more teachers. If anybody is interested, I have the addresses of websites that list the salaries of Dekalb teachers. And it is true that they make about the average for Dekalb County. For comparison, I also have a website that lists the salaries of the NIU faculty. As faculty member at NIU, I look only at the humanities and only dream of the salaries of the kind of teachers.
3 minutes ago. Thank you. Next, we have board committee reports and correspondence. Does anyone have anything? Have you? Okay, next is the non-business consent agenda. Approval of the board, that the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through E. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second. Any discussions? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Next is business and finance. Approval of tentative budget 2016, 2017. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the fiscal year 2016, 2017 budget for public display in anticipation of adoption on September 20th, 2016. Do I have a motion? So moved.
Second.
Andrea?
Can everyone hear me? All right, so this evening we're going to start with the formalized budget process. So last month we did review the pre-tentative budget, and this evening we will be taking action on the formal tentative budget. So to start with, let's define really what a budget is. And that's just a plan. It's a plan of revenue and it's a plan of projections. We use this tool to plan for future and to gauge our spending. Now, in front of you, we will have our estimates of revenues and expenditures. Enclosed along with this document was a point-by-point of what all those assumptions are behind each of those revenues and expenditures. Also enclosed is a supplemental document for your review of additional charts and graphs.
In terms of how the district handles their finances, we do our accounting on a modified accrual basis, which basically means that reported revenues are reported when they are received and expenses when they're paid. So in addition, at fiscal year end, we kind of shore up with revenues and expenditures so they are in line with when we receive them or when we're supposed to receive them, that is. So what we do is we account for the revenues up to 60 days after the year is ended. That would include funds from the state of Illinois because consistently they have paid us late. So we do include those in our previous fiscal year as long as we receive them within that 60-day period. And we also look for our property taxes that we receive. We receive about half of our taxes in May and June, which we received this last May and June. And we push those into the next fiscal year to be in line with when those expenditures will go through. Additionally, we also report expenses that are paid after 60 days for expenses that are incurred technically in the previous fiscal year. So we push those back into the previous fiscal year so that our revenues and expenditures are aligned.
As far as the budget building process goes, and this seems like it's a year-long endeavor, it's because it is. So we start in January, where the board formally adopts a budget calendar. Then from February, March, and April, we have many meetings for all the planning, refining projections, and essentially what we're doing during that time is building a 5-year lookout of budgets. In April, we receive our final tax extension, which is the largest portion of our revenue. And then in May and June, we update and present to you a tentative budget. And in June and July, we again will give you further updates. And then here we are in August, which starts the finalization of that process. And then in September, you will be adopting the formal budget.
This is what we previously presented to the board back on July 19th, and it's the update for the state budget. Back in June 30th, basically at the bitter end of the session in Springfield, the state did approve a school budget for the entire year, although the state budget is known as 6 months budget. And they did increase our general state aid by $2.1 million. So that is some good news. Another thing that we know at that time was they eliminated the ERO, which is the early retirement options for certified staff, which include teachers and administrators. And because of that, we have some staff that decided to retire this past fiscal year, so that increased some of our expenditures for the early retirement option. Yes. The change, and also another thing that happened with that early retirement option expiration, the TRS percent that is paid changed from 9.4% to 9%. So there will be some reduction in expenditures due to that change in TRS percent.
Then, as a quick reminder, is what has happened with the general state aid. So for the past 5 years, from year to year, different things have happened. Starting with the fiscal year 2012 is when the state had surprised us and suddenly informed us they could not afford to pay us our last payment. So that came with very little warning. In fact, it wasn't until toward the end of the school year that we found out that that was going to happen. That was just one of the many indications that the state was financially strapped. What continued then to happen was in fiscal year 2013, the state again, because of the money not flowing into them, started what they called was a proration. So they walked through the full formula of general state aid, but then they only applied 89.2% of that to our district. Then once again, in fiscal year 2014, they did the same thing. And they prorated our general state aid down to 88.7%, which was nearly a $1.6 million loss to our district. Then again, in fiscal year 2015, they prorated us down to 89.1%, which was a loss of $1.8 million. What then came as a surprise, so there was that proration out there, but what ended up happening toward the end of the school year, again, is the state ran out of money and then further prorated that down by 1.9%, thereby only giving us a payment of 87.2% of that general state aid. So that was a loss of $2,155,000. Then in 2016, the year we just closed out, the proration was 92%. And there again, we lost $1,522,000 because of that proration. So over the last 5 years, our district has lost $7,108,341 due to the state not being able to fully fund our general state aid. So what we also have down here, just so that we're all aware that as we build this budget and we can see what history has told us, that no matter what number the state gives us, at times that can fluctuate. So for every 1%, they prorate us over what they had told us could be a gain or a loss of $203,000.
Again, this is a slide that we previously presented to the board back in July, based on the additional general state aid that the state that we received. So of that 2.1 million, what we did is we went through different scenarios to determine, okay, what confidence levels we have that we are actually going to receive 100% of that increase.
We had to decide the board had the desire to basically go with a 50% increase to stay conservative based on what our experience has been with receiving funds from the state and what they could potentially do. So from a conservative perspective, we had decided that we may receive 50% of those funds, which would put us at a deficit of about $1.6 million. Then to further look at our revenue, with a little more detail, what we have is each fund laid out with local, state, and federal sources or other. So this tells you each individual fund and the dollar amounts that we are anticipating receiving. So when you start with the education fund, you can see the local resources of $34,179,000, and I'm not going to go into all the detailed numbers here, but you can see we also receive state and federal money in the education fund. We also have the operations and maintenance fund. All of that money does come locally, which means from the taxpayers. Additionally is the debt service fund. This money is what's considered under a restricted fund. This is money that comes in solely to pay for our bonds that are issued. So this money essentially all does come from our local property tax holders. Transportation fund is divided between local and state money. And IMRF, the Municipal Retirement Fund, that is what is considered a restricted fund. And then you see Capital Projects Fund, that again is a restricted fund of money coming in and going out of. Working Cash Fund is an additional fund that the only thing you can do with that money is make transfers or loans to other funds or abate it. And then Life and Safety Fund, again, is a restricted fund for facility projects that have to be approved by the state. And in total, that is $89,255,105. Additionally, you could see a chart, so you know all the numbers, a lot of people don't like looking at, but this draws the picture for you so you know where the majority of the money comes from. So when you see the total, look at this pie, the majority of the money, 61%, comes from local sources. Again, the majority of that is property taxes, and then there are additional monies from student fees and corporate personal property taxes. That's the largest part of that. There is $1.5 million of tip money that we receive, and that's from the city of Dekalb, and that's through an intergovernmental agreement that we have with them. Then you will see the next biggest breakout is our state money, and again, this represents about 33% of our revenue. The largest portion of that number is our general state aid. Additionally, we receive about $3.7 million for special education, and then for our transportation reimbursement is $2.9 million. Lastly, we receive from our federal government about 6.16% of that total revenue, and that is mostly for our title grants, which are grants typically for poverty school districts, and additionally, we receive national school lunch money. Now we're going to look at the projected expenditures. Again, this is similar to the revenue side. We've got all of our funds here, the education fund, and debt service transportation, IRS, capital projects, and life safety, and this is what we're projecting to spend in this fiscal year 16-17. Obviously, the education fund is the largest, because that is what we do here is educate students, so that is the largest fund. And it's broken out by object, is what it's called, which is salaries, benefits, purchase services, materials, capital outlay, and others also includes special education tuition costs. So the expenditures here are broken out by each of those funds. The debt service fund, those expenditures are basically what we will pay to support our bonds that we talked about, the revenues coming in, and this is the expenditures to support that. The transportation fund obviously is to support the transporting students back and
IRF is basically a benefit, which is for those that are non-certified staff, that's where there's benefit goes, as well as Medicare and private costs going to those into that fund. Capital projects fund, these out, this $2 million is $2 million that we're receiving from the city, which is TIP funds. We're doing some improvements to some of the schools that are within the TIP. So that's what that $2 million is for. You saw the $2 million on the revenue side, this is the $2 million on the expenditure side, so that's basically a wash. And then also what we projected spend in the life safety fund, which is $600,000. And again, we have a pie chart that we're focusing on the operating funds, those funds that are restricted. So really, this gives you perspective of where we're spending most of our dollars, which is typical for all school districts, in salaries and benefits. And that's largest is purchase services, because that's where we have our contract for food service, per student, which does our transportation, our liability insurance, our legal costs, those types of things are in that bucket. Tuition or other, which is also tuition is the largest chunk of our expenditure budget. Then materials, which would be included there, like utilities, cleaning supplies, classroom supplies, those types of items. And then capital outlay, which are more big ticket items or some capital improvements that will get talked about.
And if I could just make one quick comment, since we have so many taxpayers here, because one point of discussion has come up many times on the bonds that we issued for the referendum. And recently, I was asked to address the Kiwanis, and they were quite surprised to hear that in that bond payment, we are making principal and interest payments. They had reported to me that it was out there in the community that the bonds that we were paying were strictly interest only, and that is not the case. So we are paying down debt. And when it's reported, when you take a look at our operating fund deficit, that does not include the bonds. Okay, just so we're clear, because that is a completely restricted amount of money, and we are always going to collect what we end up paying in that debt service. So I hope that helps bring clarity for some. So then when we take a look at the full picture of our operating budget, when you take a look at our revenues, the local, state, and federal, the total for that is $81,253,521. Then we take a look at our total operating expenditures, which totals $82,913,652. So there is a deficit right now that we are projecting at $1,660,132. Now, at the very bottom, you will see that there is an operating fund balance as a percentage of the expenditures at 24.15%. We do have a board policy that states we are to keep those balances within 15 to 25%.
This slide basically is a summary of everything that we just reviewed, but just in more, not in as much detail, but it does do it by fund, and we are showing all the funds, and then showing the operating part of those funds. So the reason we show operating is that is what we use those funds on a day-to-day basis. So we consider those operating funds, and the state of Illinois looks at that as well as operating funds. So again, a summary, looking at, I'm not going to go through everything, we've done that. It shows on a fund-by-fund basis with that $1,660,000 in operating deficit at the moment. And we also have funds transfers budgeted in here, moving funds from the transportation fund, because we'll have excess funds there into the education fund and the development fund. So again, it gets us to where we're projecting to start the year. We're still closing out our year, so we're not sure where the numbers will fall yet, but this is a pretty good estimate. And what our estimated fund balance will be at the end of 16-17. And that's the quick summary of where we're looking at the end of 16-17.
Okay, again, as part of the budget process, it's important to take a look at the historical perspective of what has happened. So in front of you, you can look at the chart, if that makes it easier to see, as well as what the specific numbers are for each individual year. So the bar chart on the bottom with a line drawn across demonstrates from fiscal year 2006 to our projected year 2017 of what our fund balance is. And your fund balance is essentially after you have paid all your revenue, after you've received all your revenues, paid all your expenditures, the money that you have left over. The importance of keeping that line somewhat straight is because of what we have experienced with the state. When the state decides to slow down your cash flow, meaning we're waiting longer for that money to come, we need money in reserves in order to continue paying all our expenses. But I think in front of you here, what we could clearly see is from 2006, and this was a year when we changed our accounting practices. But when you take a look at all the years thereafter, we have, and this is not by mistake, it's been by design, to truly try and build our home. And it has been with give and take on all sides, from all parties. We have seen people lose their jobs, we have seen changes in contracts, we have seen class sizes grow, and it has been all of that started in 2010 to keep this line somewhat stable. So, and that's what all parties working together. However, since 2013, that squeeze comes tighter and tighter, and every time we make these reductions or attempt to make some changes, we always take a look at the things that are least impactful to our students. We all know that that is our focus. But that struggle becomes harder and harder. So in 2013, even though it was ever so slight, there was a deficit of $260,000. In 2014, we overspent by $2 million, and in 2015, nearly $1.6 million. Now, we have been trying all along the way, and you can see the supplemental document of all the budget reductions that have been made. But going forward in 2016, which we haven't closed out completely yet, there's projected $870,000 deficit, and then for 2017, a 1.6, nearly $1.7 million deficit.
Just a few things to observe and considerations that we always like to keep out there and keep in the back of our minds. Again, the general state aid, how confident are we that we are going to receive the dollars that they say we're going to receive? We've seen that they prorated, we've seen that they've made some changes mid-year, at the end of the year, so we have to keep that in mind and be conservative when we are looking at that number, considering what is going on. And again, for fiscal year 16-17, the K-12 school state budget was passed as of June 30th for the entire year, but it's only been a 6-month budget that was passed for the remaining states. And actually, I remember we had a budget for the previous year, so I'm not really sure how we're going to be able to keep operating, but that's always a big question out there. And their whole concept is let's wait till the election is over and let's see what happens. And then, go back in January and we'll get this all fixed. There's some skepticism there. Again, we've got delayed payments. We are still waiting, and I check the website every day to see what we're going to receive. Our funds that we're waiting on, we're still waiting on $1.8 million that are scheduled to be paid to us, but not released by the controller. And the reason for that is right now there's $7.8 billion that hasn't been paid by the state, that hasn't been released by the controller, because there is no money in the bank account to pay those funds. And you can even go to the controller's website, the Illinois State Controller, Google it, and they have a huge number there that every day changes as to how much needs to be paid or how little needs to be paid. And actually, this number has gone up to over $8 billion, and hasn't really gone much lower than the $7.8 billion. Another thing that's out there that we need to keep on the horizon is there's still talk of property tax increases, and that occurs again in the largest portion of our revenue is property taxes. And the reason that, from a political perspective, sounds good, but from a school perspective, it's very impactful in the organization. So we have to keep that in perspective, because every 1% change is a consumer price index, that's
does darn plus or minus $463,000. And that's a big number when we do our property tax levy. Also, another thing still out there, which has been somewhat quiet, but maybe another thing that the state is going to do once the election is done, is pension payments. And the pension costs shift from the state to the local districts. Again, there's been a lot of talk about that stuff, but that is something that's out there that we have to take into consideration when we are looking at our budget. And of course, currently we are in contract negotiations with the state. So as far as for future considerations, in order to address structural deficits that are being faced currently and in front of us, cost benefit analysis will have to be done on various programs and the way we provide service. The importance of all of this, of course, is our bond rating. For those of you who read the newspaper and see what has happened to Chicago Public Schools, every time a district has to restructure bonds or issue additional bonds, no different than you as an individual, that credit rating is extremely important. That credit rating means that whoever is providing the money will charge you an additional higher amount, depending on how bad or how good that credit rating is. So we would like to maintain a good credit rating. The challenge, of course, is just because we reside in the state of Illinois, that is frowned upon us. So there we can't do anything about that. What we can do, though, is to try and mitigate as much of the deficits as possible. So we would need to demonstrate to our bondholders when we go out and have a rating agency take a look at us, that we are changing the way we are doing business here to mitigate these deficits. So fortunately or unfortunately, that's the way school business works, and that's the way we are rated and graded. So we're trying to do everything that we possibly can to make all of this work, but it's just so that we all know it is a challenge. There is a big challenge in front of us. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Okay, next we have new business and administration, Kishwaukee Family YMCA before school program proposal, and this is Dr. Miller, and this is an informational item.
I just want to mention, we've had, the YMCA has run programs after school for the past few years, and parents pay for the services. They wanted to try to help out families that need to get their children to school a little bit early. So we actually piloted this at Brooks last year. It was pretty successful. There's no cost to the district whatsoever, and they do want to roll it out to these other schools for families. In the spirit of full disclosure, I'm on the board of directors for the YMCA, so I just want to let you know that. Happy to answer questions.
Any questions from the board? And do I have a consensus to bring this back?
Thank you.
Next, we have recommended revisions to Board of Education policies first reading. And this is an informational item that the Board of Education will hold a first reading of recommended revisions from the Illinois Association of School Boards to Board of Education policies as attached. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
As we look at the items that were sent by press, somewhere near the last page of that is a summary of them with kind of a yes-no type of thing on there. I'd like to try to recommend a policy or procedure by which we as a board and the individuals of this board look at that and actually come together at second reading with our thoughts in mind about the approval or disapproval of those particular things, so that we have, in effect, 7 votes among individuals and then come out with what the board actually believes.
What was that?
There are items in there such as the anti-opioid presence on within our institutions. We need to know more about that and inform ourselves between first and second readings.
Actually, it's relatively easy to find that information out. I had a discussion today with the school resource officer, and there is Narcan available for students in the district.
There is, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you just said. There is or is not?
There is. It's here.
Well, thank you for the information now, but I really would, overall, the idea of sitting and listening and reading these policies that I don't necessarily know things about, we're lucky on this one that we have it available, but the next time out and the time after that, we're still going to be faced with whether we actually understand everything and have the resources at our fingertips or not. And I'd like to recommend that we just take a vote on it by using and filling out the pieces of the form, which are pretty easy to do. Just find it near the end of the document and bubble it in. If we all agree on it, then we can move ahead pretty easily. Otherwise, we know what we have to talk about. So it's my suggestion that as members of the board, we come to the next meeting, the second reading, before it's all finalized, with the with something completed so that we can look at it and make sure that we all agree about the individual items that are there.
Or we need to have the discussion in the open session. So
yes.
We'll have to have that at the open. We can have that discussion at the next meeting.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Next we have the proposal. Huh?
We need to vote on it or something. Accept the consensus.
Consent, yeah. Proposal to combine the middle school wrestling programs at Clinton Rosette and Huntley Middle School. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve combining the middle school wrestling programs at Clinton Rosette and Huntley Middle School. Do I have a motion? So moved. Second. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call, please. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, next we have student services, TOSA, extra summer days. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the additional 20 summer work days for the student services teacher on special assignment to collaborate with the student services department. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, and with that, the meeting will be adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.